Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me show, everybody. Olivia's running a little bit behind. She'll be back in just a few. Leroy is playing loud noises on his mic. He's here. If you haven't had a chance, please like the show. We have got a lot to cover tonight. I just realized all alert bulletin. We have not been stressed about this, but looking at donations, we're going to need some help. All the holiday, it's just the month is almost a third over. So if we're in the giving mood, tonight would be the night. Certainly would appreciate it. You can do that at linktapgo.com/thedumshow. We'll put it up for you for all to see. Busy night tonight. Let's get her started. Soft. Live. Just blew my eardrum out, sweetheart. You gotta remember that. She'll be back. Just a few. All right, we should be good on Wimkin right now. Dumb Club, folks. We have monthly newsletters. You get ad-free news, quarterly gift box, which is on its way. My understanding is we're really close to shipping that out. Cost Club membership, which is like made in the USA, Amazon, all good stuff. Stop on by thedumbclub.com. You want to get back to the show and also be a part of something bigger, the Dumb Club. Take a look, dumbclub.com. Step into a Wimkin.
What's up, everybody? It's Ryan Weaver. I am on the Don't Unfriend Me show, otherwise known as The Dumb Show, with host Matt Spear. You guys can find the show at The Dumb Show on social media or thedumbshow.com.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me show with your hosts Matt, Leroy, Amy, Olivia and Mike. Geopolitics, military analysis and election coverage. Coming to you live on the Spreely.tv network and all major social media channels at The Dumb Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.
France is in big trouble. I mean, I mean, big trouble. They're they're in big trouble. That's all it comes down to. I mean, their election, they just put in a super far lefty. They're recognizing Palestine as a sovereign state. We might be going to war with France in the next 10, 15 years if this trajectory keeps up. I mean, they're on the path to totalitarianism. We've seen this in Europe before, and
we have.
This isn't something new. I mean, everyone's worried about Iran. They're worried about China. We're worried about France, not as a military might, but they are an influential proponent of the EU. There's 3 countries over there that truly lead Europe, and it's France, Germany, and England. France usually would go the way of Germany post World War II, and England would kind of stand in between. I don't like this.
No.
It bothers me a lot. Your light sucks right now, by the way. So, just thought I'd let you know, Leroy, but I love you.
Mine?
Yeah, it's just not as good as it always is. Whatever you do, it's like you just flip a switch and you light up. There it is. My life. You give me hope to carry on. You
know what? Part of it is the fact that
hey, wait a second. Wait, whoa. If I'm singing "You light up my life," you heal, dude. Heal. I mean, that doesn't happen very often. I mean, if you want, I could. You don't bring me flowers anymore. Okay, go ahead. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I was just going to say, I just came back from vacation. So quite literally, when Matt sings "You Light Up My Life," it's because I have a tan.
You look good.
And so it's throwing off all of my lights because I got so dark while I was in South Carolina.
You really did get some color, but the lights look fantastic now. Want to thank those who are contributing to the Don't Unfriend Me cause here. Like I said, it's been a tough month so far because of the holiday, but we're hoping that we can do some damage to our goal. It's it is what it is, folks. It's something we're not big fans of asking for, but in order to keep producing the content that we do, we've got to, for the first time in 3.5 years, ask for some help because Facebook has decided to demonetize us and take 90% of our revenue. So we're in a little bit of a pickle. So your help moves that forward. So thank you so much. Here's the thing. France is a concern. They put in a far left person. This is going to impact the EU. This is going to impact political pressure on England. I'm interested to see if they start buying energy from Russia, because I think France is now going to move into a de facto state of not access of evil, but malign themselves with China, Russia, et cetera, et cetera. And here's why, because China and Russia have a very strong need for military weaponry. And right now they're relying heavily on Iran, which is going to become harder and harder. And a superpower / semi-superpower, France has a very high yield of defense. They do a very good job with their aerodynamics and aircraft, some of their missile sets. They're a player. And if they decide to start supplying Russia or China with armament, we better. That's something I don't think anyone expected this. We knew that it was an unrest. We knew that France was on the precipice of not a coup, because it wasn't a dictatorship or not an overthrow of the government, but really just the people standing up and saying enough's enough. And it started with COVID,
right?
And now you've got a far left leader in here. It's none of this is good.
If I could add something to that. So on NBC News just ran a story less than a day ago, and their main headline was that France prevents a far-right takeover, famed cordon sanitaire, right? So even our media is framing this with some level of optics as if to say, hey, look, we defeated the far right here.
Right.
As if they're saying, look, democracy is in action, when in fact, what they're leaning closer and closer to is more of a totalitarian style of government. So yeah.
Here's a video. I will go ahead because I speak French. No, I'll go ahead and decipher what he says because I speak French. So let me begin.
Faire preuve, comme nous l'avons fait dans cette élection.
We are French. We are stinky like cheese, and we make great wine.
De détermination, de volonté politique, de discipline, de...
We will no longer use soap, and condoms are a secondary requirement, and sleeping with your aunt is completely acceptable.
Pas. C'est-à-dire
Oh, wow.
qu'il faut que, loin de rentrer chez vous,
I have a small dick, and I have never slept with a woman.
dire seulement ouf, mais vous avez bien sûr le droit de vous dire ouf.
Hockey is no longer hockey. Excuse me. Listen, this process is important, and if you're not going to take it seriously, Leroy, seriously, hockey is no. It's okay. Just seriously, respect the man. Hockey is no longer a French Canadian sport. It is now solely in the hands of the United States, as is football. It's exciting.
Faut vous mobiliser. Nous allons avoir un premier ministre ou une première ministre du nouveau Front populaire.
How do you know a Frenchman moved in next door, the trash cans are knocked over, and the dog is pregnant?
Tout à l'heure, Mathilde, la présidente du groupe Insoumis,
The French cannot be trusted. All hail England. So obviously some very serious stuff going on over in France, and it doesn't look good.
Women have all stopped shaving their pits, and the guys have all started shaving theirs.
Yeah, we've got another problem. Yeah. So what are your thoughts, dude? I mean, is this end of days? I mean, are we here? Are we just like the world is just said? You know what? We've held on long enough. Human beings have always destroyed each other, and now it's just a matter of time where our tolerance is. We've forgotten the lessons of World War II, and it's time for another world war. I mean, your thoughts? And Lydia, I want to get your thoughts. Or are we getting close?
Are we there yet? It does feel like it, but the logical part of my brain says no. The logical part of my brain says that within each and every country over in the EU, there's a pendulum, and it's just like the pendulum that swings here in the United States. Some years it leans a little further to the left, some years a little further to the right. And just because, we're seeing a lot of this civil unrest in France, I'm hopeful that their political system and that their voters will self-correct. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Here's the only problem I have with that real quick is if we take a look back at the rise of fascism in Europe, it didn't come in the form of family values. It didn't come into the form of Christian Judeo ethics. It came into the form of progressivism. And thank you,
Thanks,
Deborah. There we go, folks. Thank you for your help. We appreciate it. This is making a big difference this month. So thank you. So a lot of people go, oh, fascism is a far right policy. No, it's not. And it's not a far left policy. We've talked about this. It's antithetical to a Republican viewpoint, conservative viewpoint, and a liberal viewpoint. Classic liberalism is the absolute antithetical difference between that and totalitarianism or fascism. So when anyone goes, oh, the right's fascist or the left's fascist, no, that's not true. Power, greed breeds fascism. And it makes me worried because Europe has a history of embracing this type of ideology. It's not even something that you can just put on World War II because England took this position with Iran. And utilized and leveraged the United States to run proxy on Iran. So with Ireland as well, and so you can sit here and look before the fall of the Soviet Union that this is alive in Europe, and for them to abandon conservatism and limited government to now embrace big government is what got Europe in trouble to begin with. And I worry that maybe not in my lifetime where it matters, but it's certainly in my children's, mid-adult life, that this very much Europe could flip the switch, because you can't look at Europe as what's happened in the past as prologue, right? Because the amount of illegal immigration and mass migration that's happened in Europe has changed the faces of these countries. And it's no longer a place where law and order reign true. It's progressivism, and almost like white guilt has surpassed their ability for reasoning and to have any type of bumpers to keep their society on track. And I might be just spewing here, and I'm not making much sense, because
No, I don't think you are. And if I can add something, it was Reagan who said that if fascism ever comes to America, it would come in the form of liberalism. And something I kind of wanted to pick apart with what you said, and I agree with what you said. But when we're talking about fascism, when we're talking about democracy or communism or any of the other forms of government, to some degree, fascism, communism, socialism, each and every one of those comes with an element of anti-individualism. So, and I want everyone to really kind of pay attention here. The idea that the United States is this democracy. Yes, true enough. We have democratic levers that operate certain portions of our government. But really, the heart of the Constitution, right, lies in individualism. It lies in the protection. Thank you, Jim. That was cool.
Thanks, Jim.
I'd never seen that one before.
Yeah, that's a subscriber. So that's somebody who actually joins the Facebook group. So we appreciate it, Jim. Cool. Thank you, sir.
That's cool. The idea that each and every one of those is in some way anti-individualism, and the one thing that our Constitution and our Bill of Rights protects is the individual, is why we need to protect that so much here. And when you're looking at places like France, and this is where I think Matt's going to agree with me, France, Italy, England, they don't have a Bill of Rights like we do. So it's far more, they are far more susceptible to the idea of anti-individualism, which is why they can fall into fascism, communism, socialism far easier.
And they still have the principles of theocratic rule. Everyone goes, "Oh, well, the crown does. It's just a placeholder for a long since past in tradition." Bullshit. The crown controls the dollars in England, and they control the dollars in France. And anyone who's going to sit here and pretend that the monarchy is not alive and well, you're just not paying attention. So theocratic rule leads to, it's a form of tyranny, and it's always been a form of tyranny. Some of the most oppressive regimes in the world have had monarchs at the helm. And you can go through the Georges, you can go through the prince and kings of Persia and Prussia. You can go through the Ming dynasty, emperors, Japan. Some of the worst have been lines of delineation or lines of lineage to Charlemagne or to, Allah or Buddha or Muhammad or Abraham, and saying that, we have the blood of kings and we therefore rule over the people. That theocratic rule is tyranny. So to say that, it would be very similar to this. It would be like that the United States kind of goes back, surprisingly enough. People may not like to hear this, but we kind of fall back into our rut of being maybe not racist, but prejudice, and believing that white people are at times that this is our country. And I think it's fair for people to say that sometimes, is that we might fall back in some of that behavior that we saw. Because if you look at our history, the worst parts of our history have always been about, classism. It always has been. And whether that's from an economic standpoint, whether that's from from this color of your skin or what side of the tracks or your educational level. Classism is a part of the United States. Well, so is theocratic rule inside Europe and oppression of its people. And surprisingly enough, France, whenever France doesn't like its government, it just revolts and it takes it over. France has had more revolutions than a freaking merry-go-round. So my point is this: I'm not saying the United States is inherently racist. What I'm saying is it falls back on things that it's done in the past, because what we know about the history is what is past is prologue. What has happened will happen again, especially if we don't remember it, we're doomed to repeat it. So I'm not trying to sound like a lib-lab here and say, oh, well, America's racist. No, I'm saying that classism is truly a thing that we've done here, and we tend to fall back into its tracks and ruts, very similar to other countries. As Russia, it always falls back into expansion of its territory. These other countries have monikers attached to them that dictate who they were, what they are, and what they will be again. So I think it's a danger sign to me. I don't like to see it. I don't think that it's having a liberal or a leftist in place is going to ruin the country. It's the way this guy talks that makes me nervous. Sheila, thank you for donating.
Thank you, Sheila.
So that's a lot of exposition and just verbal diarrhea, but it was just me doing what I always do, thinking aloud. So I appreciate you guys accommodating that.
I just want to add one last thing to that.
Sure.
Democracy defined, right? The actual true meaning of democracy in France is a revolution. A revolution in France has been, akin to a Friday night at a bowling alley where the heads roll the same, right? I mean, that is democracy. It's when the mob takes over. It's when the majority rules and said, you're going to do this or we're going to take your head. That is democracy.
Yeah. Well, we know this throughout history that it is mob rule. And you can sit here and sugarcoat it. And people have, if you listen to Joe Biden when he did his, thank you, Vicky.
Thank you, Vicky.
When he did his red lights Adolf Hitler rendition,
oh, yeah.
When he went after, he actually called it a republic. And the reason why is he was trying to speak to the Trump supporters who weren't the far right MAGA. That's why he called it a republic. And he was essentially placating and doing what they always do, which is, pandering to a group of people. So anyway, Liv, welcome. I knew you were gone. You've had a long ass day, so I appreciate you doing this. We've got a big show. No pre-show to walk through because we just got to dive right into it.
Can I give my opinion on?
Yeah. Oh, yes, babe. Shit, I didn't know you had one. Usually you just put your hand up and tell me you do, or just start talking. So I'm sorry. I was trying to save you.
Well, normally when you say, okay, Leroy, then Olivia, I start to think of something. It's
I was
when you put me
saving.
on the
I was
spot.
saving you. I thought you didn't have anything. So
yeah, best for last.
Go ahead.
Thank you. In my opinion, the whole World War III thing, I think that if Biden gets reelected, I think that the rest of the world sees us as weak right now. And if he gets reelected, we're going to be open to attack. And Biden is too chicken shit to do anything about it. And other countries are going to see that we're not going to defend ourselves and they're going to come after us. So, yeah, I think that could possibly start a war if Biden gets in. If Trump gets in, I still think with the borders open that there's going to be an attack on U.S. soil sometime in the next couple years. But with Trump at the helm, if he gets elected, whichever country is responsible for that, he's going to rain holy hellfire on them. And I think it's going to tell the rest of the world that we're not weak anymore and they'll leave us alone. That's in my opinion. As far as World War III, I have no idea. I guess it just depends on what country goes after which country, I guess.
You see, and World War III isn't going to be started the way people think, Russia invading another country, because Russia's been doing that since inception. That's not what scares me. It's the EU falling apart, not from a financial standpoint, but from a unity standpoint, where you start having countries face off against each other. That's how World War I started. That's how World War II. Now people are like, well, no, Matt, World War I started because, okay, stop. We're not going to break it down in the simplicity that World War II and World War I, World War II is Germany's fault completely, and World War I was conflicts and Russia pulling Germany into World War I due to mass buildup of military forces along the border. Okay, you can break it down to that, but really what it comes down to is Germany declared war in World War I, and Germany declared war in World War II. But there's more nuance than that. A lot more happened. There's a reason why Hitler was emboldened to go through France and literally march and blitzkrieg into Paris. Never been done before. There was a huge amount of disrespect, and that comes from generational hatred and anger towards France and Germany to be able to just blitz on Paris without so much as a by your leave. I want you to imagine what that would look like if Canada decided to go ahead and push into Denver, Colorado. What type of impact would that have on us mentally? That's what you're talking about with Germany pushing into France. So there's just a lot of history, a lot of anger, a lot of animosity. And as young as we are, as a 200 plus, 50 plus country, you're talking about history of 2,000 years in some cases in some of these European countries, and that breeds for a lot of contempt and a lot of anger that doesn't necessarily go away with a generation or two. It stays in your DNA. So Middle Eastern history is probably one of the most complex in the world to understand, even scratch the surface. But the European history is probably second. And the reason why you can look at Asia, Southeast Asia, and look at the history of that area, it's not as difficult to understand because those rules lasted hundreds of years. Those were called dynasties for a reason, because some of those emperors were in place, and the lineage of those emperors were hundreds of years. So it's a little bit easier to understand China, Japan, and Indonesia a little bit better than it would be to comprehend Europe, which are all independent countries, literally vying for the same power and the same structure. It's just an interesting way to look at what happened in the past. Very much could happen in the future. Anyway, we got to get off this topic because this one is making me spin my gears, and I'm frustrated beyond belief at this because to see France embrace leftism again, and it's terrifying because they've done this before. Because I'm sorry, I have to look at Mussolini. Fascism in the state of fascism and its complete definition was created by Mussolini. And the fascist party came out of Mussolini's rule. So to assume that Italy and France aren't tied with the same sinew is ridiculous. In fact, most of their time spent in Europe together, side by side, in a country, they have very seldom parted ways or have a difference of opinion, minus World War II, which was extensively, they were opposite. And the Germans made that the reality more than anything. And Italy sided with Germany. And that's why. Leroy, I know you got something to say. I just, to me, people are like Korea, North Korea, Taiwan, Iran, Europe instability terrifies the shit out of me. And it should terrify you. And that's why people are like, NATO sucks. NATO's horrible. Yeah, but NATO has kept the peace for a long time. And if you have countries that are starting to change their principle, what will happen is, Leroy said, you kind of get a little bit of left, you get a little bit of right, and you see these ebbs and flows over history, except when it's not. And what you see is this wave literally turn into a tsunami of one power, and that overtakes everything. And that's when they start rounding people up, and that's when they start putting people in prisons, and that's when they start mass exodus of human life, disarmament of the people, speech suppression. This isn't new for France. This isn't new for Italy. This isn't new for Germany. This has happened before many, many times throughout history. And it's not just World War I and World War II. That's what scares me. All right, Leroy, last word. And then Olivia, if you have anything, and then we can move on. I'm sorry.
And after this, I'll shut up. So just something to really, for anybody who's seriously interested in this, I would highly encourage you to read the Communist Manifesto, as well as the Italian flavored version of the Fascist Manifesto. Read those two, right? Compare the actual policies that are put in place there, right? Mussolini had written the fascist one. There's in both of these, they're not that long. They're less than 5 or 6 pages apiece. But if you read those, right, then compare that to the current headlines that are happening in Europe, and then just ponder to yourself, just think about it. What is the solution to all of this? It is, in fact, a U.S. version of a Bill of Rights and a Constitution. That alleviates all of that because it puts the power back onto the individual, not a group.
Stephen, I'm not going to chime in what you said because if I do it, then we're going to keep talking. And Stephen says one more thing. I was setting with friends, having coffee, sitting with friends, and we're talking about guns and the coming war. This lady leans over and says, "No one needs a gun, and we're not going to war. People who believe this are off the meds. Just my thoughts." I'd rather have a gun and not need it than need a gun and not have it. That's my answer to everyone who says you don't need a gun. So moving on. Dude, you look orange. And your tan is just illustrious and just glowing. You look good.
Thank you.
Do you know what Hayden told me?
No.
I'm trying to look like Donald Trump, actually.
Yeah, no, Joe Biden did it too. So now you look like Joe.
So apparently you can't say tan anymore. You have to say sun-kissed.
That's not what she said. She already yelled at you for this. That's not what she said. She said it's appreciated not to say the word tan because it objectifies other people who can't tan to feel bad about their color, but also because certain demographics are described as tan, being light-skinned African Americans or Asians or Mexicans, that it somehow dignifies. It's just the woke bullshit. It's all it is. I'm not agreeing with it. I'm just telling you it's stupid, but it's not mandatory. Yeah. You can say the word tan. I said the word Negro today on Dom Izzo's show, and I thought he was going to have a conniption fit. And I said, why can't we say that word? When you're talking about history or you're talking about Democrats from the 1800s, that was the absolute language that they used. I'm sorry, but if I want to drive a point home, then I'm going to use the vernacular because they're calling us Nazis. In my opinion, a word like Negro or Beaner or whatever, or a sexual moniker, or calling someone a cracker, or calling someone a Nazi, those all are in the same group. So if you want me to use language that's approved, then you better stop using language that you're calling my ass a Nazi, or you're calling me a Jewy Jew. I got called a Jewy Jew today, and I said
that makes no sense.
What the fuck are you talking about? So here's the reason why we talked about this, and I didn't call someone a Negro. What I said was this is the way that the Democrats used to treat the Negroes. And there's a prime example of this. When you hear Joe Biden talk about the Negro baseball leagues, and if you see that video, what he said he's like, these were a bunch of good Negroes. And like the whole world was like, oh, you can't say that. And I'm like, Joe, you can't do it. But what I'm saying is if you look at this video of Joe Biden at this rally, there was a black lady there, and she was just bright as could be, huge smile, gorgeous eyes. She was so excited to see Joe Biden, and she tried to hug him, and Joe Biden just looked right through her and hugged the white guy right next to her. And all the Democrats were like, he hugged her. And then on his way out, he completely passed her up and ignored her. Just completely passed her up. And I said, this is just the way that Democrats would treat Negroes in the past. not civil rights, but we want to go back to when you would curtail to the black neighborhoods. We're talking in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. Every time election years would come up, you would see them in black churches. You would see them in black soul food restaurants. You would see them curtail to celebrities and musicians. But then once the election was over, they didn't talk to black people for 3.5 years. That is the Negro mentality. And it's alive and well in the Democrat community. So if you're going to call me a Nazi, I'm going to go ahead and call you what you are. And you guys are going back and regressing to history into a place where you should never go again. And I think African Americans are waking up because I think they're sick and tired of being treated this way by Democrats. So I'm going to call this shit out. If you don't like it, I don't care. If it makes you uncomfortable, good. It should. Imagine how people who are being treated that way feel. Give me a break. It's the mentality.
You don't come to this show to experience a whole lot of comfort.
No.
You come to this show for a bite of reality, and that's what we're going to give you. I did want to add something to what Stephen Cloyd in his post about the lady who said, we don't need guns.
Right.
We've covered this on the show before where I think the number was like 60 or 70 million people this century have been killed by their own governments because they weren't armed. And Stephen Cloyd, your immediate response should have been something like, boy, I wish we could have given our guns to the Jewish people in Germany.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I'm looking around at this anti-Semitism going around. And, the one thing that I would say to these people who are like Luke Cage, who are getting doxxed and canceled on Twitter, and some of the other people, Jake Shields, Nick Fuentes, Stu Peters, these guys are all anti-Semitic. You know what I wish they would do? Literally, is if you hate Jews, just say so, right?
Right.
Just stop pretending. Yenny, for the love of God.
She hasn't seen me all day. I think she
Yenny has gained.
It's nice to see that cat, though.
Let me tell you something. Yenny has gained like almost a pound. Her fur is like totally soft. She started eating wet food finally. She was so hungry, and now she can't stop eating wet food. So she's finally putting on weight. This cat's going to be 10 pounds, which is exciting. She's always been itty, but she's huge, man. She's like almost twice the size that she was. But anyway, and I just wish these people would just say what they mean, because you've got this guy, Lucas Cage, I think his name is. He's been doxxed and he was banned from Twitter. This is a guy that burned the Talmud. He was burning the Israeli flag. And he's sitting there and he's like, I don't hate Jews. And it's like, dude, yes, you do. All you do is talk about Jews. That's all you do. So just let's lay our cards on the table. I think liberals are a bunch of whiny fucking pussies. Okay? I think you have went so far past the patriarch and matriarchal society that you have demonized masculinity and embraced a femininity, that you have weakened our country to a point where we no longer know who the fuck we are. You have destroyed what our country was built on. And it's time to take it back and just go the other way a little bit. I'm not saying, we got to go and let's fuck women and, let's put black people. No. Stop that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we just need to take back masculinity a little bit. Men need to be men. Women need to be women. We need to have men join the military. We need women to, if you want to do a job, fine, go work. But if you don't want to work, hey man, stay home, help out, raise the family. We'll do the same. We can switch roles, whatever it is. But in the end, we need to embrace the patriarch and matriarchal society. We need to embrace God. We need to embrace patriotism in our country. And we just need to move the pendulum the other way, because it's gone way too far to the other side. So that's my opinion. Is that all liberals? Yes, because it never used to be. I used to say leftists. The Democrat Party has lost its way. It is a reactionary party. It is opposite and it's antithetical to common sense. Therefore, if you believe in that and you embrace that, then you are part of the problem. So there it is. If you're black, white, Jew, Gentile, man, woman, I don't give a shit who you are. I love you and I'm going to insult you just to, it's your turn. But my true ire is towards liberalism, and it is completely off the fucking path. That's my opinion. Okay?
Okay.
enjoy this, Leroy, because and Olivia, I'm going to show you Adam Kinzinger, who is one of the biggest frauds and exactly what I was saying.
And I just want to emphasize what you just said. You said you haven't changed.
This guy is the epitome of
I can't even see his eyes. He's squinting.
He is a douchebag grifter. Says he's a Republican. He's not. He hates Trump. And this guy, all he does is talk trash about the GOP, talk trash about Trump, talk trash about Republicans. And this is a guy, this is who I'm talking about. You should just come out and say, I am a leftist. I don't align with the GOP anymore. I don't believe in what the GOP believes in. And I am posing as a conservative right person to get the never Trumpers so I can grift off them. Just be honest. Me, I have built a complete network on really demonizing the Biden administration. But if you remember, when Donald Trump was in office, I wasn't very nice to him at times. So it really is whoever's in power, I'm going to critique with a microscope. This guy is exactly what I was describing. Listen to this Yahoo.
And I just want to emphasize what you just said. You said you haven't changed.
Right.
So in other words, the rising star Adam Kinzinger, seen as future Republican presidential candidate, is the same guy.
Yeah.
Introducing Joe Biden.
Yeah, because the party no longer knows what it believes anymore.
Okay. This guy, quickly, is not a rising star in the GOP. Nobody knows who the fuck he is. He is a has-been. He is a nobody. And never has his name been maligned with a presidency. Nobody likes Kinzinger, okay? He was a one and done. It's what Leroy and I call a one and done. It's somebody who goes in the military, serves one term, and then poof.
One hit wonder.
And they sit here and talk about, all their deployments to their C school and to the local bar. Okay? So I don't respect this guy. Leroy, let's talk about this, the party jumping. Tulsi Gabbard, your good friend from the Young Turks.
Cenk?
No. His
No,
the guy that jumped. Come on, man. He's the Republican now. He used to be a Democrat on that station. The guy who you told me, Matt, you'll like this guy.
Oh, Dave Rubin.
Yeah, thank you, Dave Rubin. I'm getting old, dude. I don't remember. My memory's been shit this week. So Dave Rubin, party jumping. You take a look at West Virginia, Joe Manchin. What do you think about somebody who jumps and changes their entire ideology on a whim and says, okay, I'm no longer A, I'm now B, and the distance between A and B are the furthest, it might as well be A and Z. Do you buy this? Do you believe in these people? Do you actually think they truly are what they say they are? Or are they just trying to go where the dollar pushes them?
So the other night you had Damani on, and something that you had said when both of you guys were examining one of the politicians. I can't remember which one, but it was the same train of thought. It was, look, unless somebody has a track record behind them of voting in a very specific way, in voting with a set of values that just so happens to align with the party. If they don't have that track record behind them and they are just saying what they need to in order to get elected, I am automatically very cautious about that. I'm thinking to myself, no, this is a snake oil salesman. This is somebody who is going to literally lie and tell me what I want to hear so that they get into office. I think that we as Americans don't do enough scrutiny in identifying those voting patterns. And I think that's what you and Damani hit on the other night.
Yeah. And I've been listening to Dave Rubin along with Megyn Kelly, who he's a regular guest on Megan's show. And I'll be honest, he comes off as sincere, but I think he is the diamond in the rough. I think he is a very rare person. I don't believe somebody truly. I mean, Thomas Sowell was
he's
a socialist. He was a Marxist, socialist, communist, Leninist. So, and he completely changed his entire philosophy. Nelson Mandela abandoned socialism and communism in the end. Strom Thurmond and George Wallace and Byrd were all Klansmen, and they denounced. So can people change? Can 3 Klansmen change? Fuck no, they can't. Not 3 in a row. All in that time who all knew each other? No, that was all political. So I'm sorry, that is like an albino, Jewish, lesbian, one-eyed Sasquatch. Okay? It just doesn't happen very often. So I don't buy into that. But I do believe there's people who genuinely change. And there's nothing wrong with that. Liv,
It's
what
rare.
about you? It is rare.
Yeah.
Liv, what do you think? Do you believe when you see people like Manchin, who's right over in West Virginia, or Tulsi Gabbard, do you buy into what they're selling and what they're pitching? Because Tulsi Gabbard, I want to remind everybody, was one of the most progressive legislators in Washington during her tenure, more than Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Klobuchar. Tulsi Gabbard is a progressive, and she is 100% not a conservative. And people are like, "Oh, well, she changed her mind." No, I don't see it. What do you think, Liv? Do you think you can change your policies like that?
I don't know. It depends. I think a lot of people who get into politics because they want to change. They want to change their county, their state, their country, and they want to go in and they're gung ho. And then they get into the political fray, and then you've got so-and-so over here going, okay, we're going to give you this much money if you vote this way, and blah, 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 blah. And I don't think that, I think the majority of them are not strong enough to hold on to their convictions and morals and not take the money.
It's well said.
I think most of them do. So the young politicians that are just starting out, Hung Cao, when Brandon was running, yes, I believed them. But if Hung Cao wins and he's in there and he starts changing his tune in a little bit, no, I'm not. Because if you run on a certain set of values and morals and then you're in the fray for a little bit and then all of a sudden you start to change, then you're ruled by money now. It's very rare to see a politician that's in there for more than a couple of years that is not true to themselves anymore.
Yeah.
And I think Eli Crane might be one of the few. I thought Crenshaw would, but Crenshaw started changing too.
Yeah, Crenshaw, and I will openly admit there's something I'll check in is that Crenshaw. Although I don't think everyone said that he was, he's a leftist. No, he's a rhino. No, he's an old school conservative, and he's a never Trumper. And that doesn't mean he's not a conservative. It just means he's not a Republican in today's standpoint. He's more of a moderate, and he did not run as a moderate. So that's frustrating to me for sure. And I agree with you 120%.
And I think people who change parties, like Tulsi Gabbard is now trying to run as Republican or whatever the hell she's doing. It's because she's not getting anywhere in her own party.
Correct.
She's not getting anywhere. So she's trying to find the new beat. Who's gonna, maybe people will believe me over here.
Yeah, I got you, Leroy. Real quick, folks, Facebook has been throttling our live shows forever. We've got 135 on right now, but most of it's from Twitter and YouTube, and Facebook's been throttling us for a long time. So it's just the way it is. There's nothing we can do to get past it. Leroy, go ahead.
Actually, I just had a question for Olivia. She had mentioned that change seems to be like the base value for incoming politicians, those fresh faces that we see. And I just wanted to get your opinion on, do you think that because change is that default setting for incoming politicians, if that automatically defaults them to Democrat?
I don't think that would automatically default them to Democrat. I mean, if I went in for whatever reason, if I decide, okay, I'm sick of the school board or whatever, or I want to get on, you know, something local, I'm not going to run as a Democrat because I want to make change. I think you can go on as either party. I think you want to make change by your own convictions and morals, but I don't think people who get into mainstream politics, maybe local, they'll stay. But I think mainstream politics, no. I think most of them are brought over and they're run by the holy dollar.
Fair
It's
enough.
like Nancy Pelosi. I mean, how many people can have a salary of what, $250 a year and be millionaires after a handful of years in there?
Yeah, she's worth $250 million. Let's be honest.
It doesn't add up. $250 a year doesn't add up. So yeah, they're definitely run by money.
Yeah.
So I want to show this next video. This is Mayor Johnson, and this is the guy that took over for Beetlejuice. I said it twice. I won't say it three times. And
that she'll appear behind you with the mirror.
Yeah. So she's Lori Lightfoot is her name, and this guy's not much better. He essentially is a female version of Lori Lightfoot. I want you to listen to this as he blames Chicago's 100 shootings July 4th weekend on Richard Nixon.
So we cut off the pipeline of boys between the ages of 10 and 19 being either victims or the perpetrators. So, yeah, it is personal.
Marty says Facebook won't let me donate. Well, you can't donate with stars on Facebook because they have removed stars from the show. So if you want to donate, the easiest way, and this is perfect timing to go ahead and talk about it, is linktapgo.com/thedumshow. You can click there and you can click on donate, which allows you to go to PayPal and put in the amount you want, or you can tip, which essentially it'll pull up right here and you'll see it go up. Either way, you're going to get your name and lights. And so if you don't want your name on there, just go ahead and change it and just put anonymous or whatever. But this helps us keep the show going. And you guys have been absolutely amazing. 3.5 years, we never asked for donations. We are in the process of soliciting donations now. And I'm just going to be honest, is because Facebook has completely taken away our revenue. And certain people can handle that, like Benny Johnson. And because he has stars in place and he has such a large following, Facebook will never hurt him. Us smaller shows, we are, if we have an opinion and they don't like it, they hurt us. So that's the way it works. So if you have the ability, linktapgo.com/thedumshow. I promise you this, it'll go to a good place. It doesn't go to the GOP, doesn't go to the DNC, doesn't go to anyone but mom and dad. And that's the woman below me right there. So here is Johnson and his entire statement.
So we cut off the pipeline of boys between the ages of 10 and 19 being either victims or the perpetrators. So, yeah, it is personal. Black death has been unfortunately accepted in this country for a very long time. We had a chance 60 years ago to get at the root causes, and people mocked President Johnson. And we ended up with Richard Nixon. I'm going to work hard every day to transform this city. That's what it takes to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago. I need everybody to step up.
Oh, dude, there is so much wrong with this. I want. Okay, I'm just going to say one thing, 30 seconds, and then I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to quote LBJ, paraphrase actually, and here is the Great Society. We are going to cater to African-American minorities. We are going to give them a taste of government. We are going to give them just enough to get hooked. And those N-words will vote Democrat for the rest of their lives. That was LBJ. LBJ did not start the civil rights movement. He continued the civil rights movement, which was moved by Republican senators, Republican congressmen, Bobby Kennedy, Democrat senators and congressmen, and John F. Kennedy went screaming with Martin Luther King pushing him. Kennedy and King had respect for each other, but Kennedy needed Martin Luther King to shut up. So Kennedy traded ponies with the civil rights movement to get King to shut the fuck up. Because instability was not what the Kennedy administration needed. They already had instability with the Bay of Pigs in Cuba, soft on communism with Russia. So they traded ponies. But to sit here and say that LBJ initiated the civil rights movement is a blatant farce. So not only does this guy not know his history, he's sucking up to one of the most racist pieces of shit ever to sit in office. LBJ was an absolute cuck. LBJ started the Vietnam War. LBJ embraced the Vietnam War. LBJ set African Americans back by putting them on welfare, putting them on subsidy, destroying the patriarch. The guy was the worst thing for black people ever. Okay, Leroy, I'm sorry, go.
Oh, you're good. What my very first observation, I wrote all this stuff down as I was listening to the guy. He is making an emotional argument based off of anecdotal evidence, then using Nixon as a scapegoat instead of looking at the real cause of crime in that city, which is largely due to a failed economy in the city of Chicago. In other words, he is failing to call out, thank you, Vincent, he is failing to call out the failures of his own president, which has spiked the crime rate. And if Black lives really mattered to him, then he would look to other city models. We've covered this on the show before, where bigger city programs have taken into youth, gotten them in off the street, kind of tried to guide them towards getting a job, gotten them away from gangs, and that has decreased gun violence. So rather than call out his own the president failures, he is going back some 60 years as if to say somehow it's Nixon's fault rather than the kids in the streets who are actually pulling the trigger.
Fair enough. We've lived in some cities. We've lived in areas that are predominantly white and upper middle class. What's the reasoning you think that African Americans are so susceptible to crime? And the reason I say this is people go, well, white people own 50% of the felonious crime in the United States. Well, that's true. But they also own 62%. If you add white Latinos, which are considered white in the United States, which is interesting, 71% make up 50% of the crime, where 16% of the population makes up the other 50%. Do you think there's some genetic issue, or do you think this is an economic issue?
Well, ironically, when I went to the grocery store today, there was a magazine. Nixon was on the cover, which is just, I don't know why, but it's been like 50 years or something like that since Watergate. So yeah, but the fact that he just came up. So I think it's a combination of both. Their family values haven't really been, I mean, not like pushed down, but they haven't been passed down. And it's either in, thank you, Joseph.
Thank you, Joseph.
So as far as the economy, they live in places where there's not good jobs and they can't make very much money. So a lot of the times they are forced to go out and make their own money, which would be drugs or doing something else. And then you've got, and I don't know what the percentage is, but within Black families, how many have no fathers? And without that father figure in the life, kids don't, they need both. They need a mom and a dad. And without that stability with both sets of parents, they just follow on the path that their non-existent dad went down, and it just kind of just keeps rolling downhill. And that's, in my opinion, where it is. It's a combination.
So if it's both, what is actually driving crime in inner cities to continue versus having the people in those inner cities stop it by instituting neighborhood watch, instituting stronger family values, instituting having their children raised with the idea that marriage is, if you get a woman pregnant, that you stick with her. I mean, all these things. What's stopping the communities from doing that? Do you have the answer? Do you have some ideas?
I think in some cities it might be fear, because a lot of those inner cities, you've got the gang element and the violence from those gangs, and I think a lot of that in those inner cities. But it's hard. I mean, you've got single moms working 2 or 3 jobs. They can't stay with their kids, and they're exhausted, and they don't have time or the energy to do anything else but work and come home and feed the kids and do it all over again. And they don't have the time to go out and try to make a change and to try to make themselves better or get their family into a position. But I think fear has a lot to do with it. And when it comes thinking of Denver, what was it, 5 points in Denver, where it was one of the worst possible places in Denver. And the city came in, and now it's in a very wealthy, prominent area.
For white people. Because they moved all the African Americans out and shoved them in East Aurora. So, here's it's kind of a loaded question, because I truly believe that African Americans were sold on a vision that government would come and help them and save them.
Right.
And if we take a look at slavery, at any time, the slaves in the South could have overtaken the South easily. In most cases, some of the numbers are like 100-1 for black slaves to white owners. It would have been very easy for one plantation to take over and kill their slave masters and move to another plantation and kill those slave masters. And by the time any response could take place, you would have thousands of African Americans rising up. Why didn't they rise up?
Fear, I would think.
Fear, but also they were emasculated. And their ability to, what I just said earlier, which was to the masculinity and the strength and the toughness, but when you destroy someone at their core and belittle them and ridicule them and turn them into something that they're not and break their spirit, the chains that kept the slaves were the chains of mental imprisonment more than just physical. And I don't believe that has ever been broken in the inner cities. I don't think that this mentality has ever been quashed. And the African American community is waiting for something from the government to help them out of this, and they are not the answer. The government is the reason they're there.
Yeah.
And the government is completely okay with keeping them there as long as they keep voting Democrat. Because I'm going to tell you something right now, African American people in the United States, if you all of a sudden voted Republican, they would drop you fucking quicker than a hot rock.
Yeah.
They would abandon you. They would move out of your cities. They would abandon you. They would allow you to kill each other at a clip that's even higher than this. You have no idea what Democrat policy has done. We saw it in California with the hate crime, or with the crime bills, the 3 strikes rules. When you allow Democrats, when African Americans get out of control, Democrats are the most vile and worst people to the African American community out of anyone else. And if anyone sits here and tells you, they're lying.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden was one of the worst. Bill Clinton was one of the worst. Hillary Clinton called super predators. Obama was from Chicago. What did he do? What did he do for the city of Chicago? Anything? Did he put the National Guard in? Not a damn thing. He doesn't care. They don't care about you. At least we know that Republicans don't care about us. Y'all think that they care about you, and they don't. They don't give a shit about you. They didn't give a shit about you with Tuskegee. They don't give a shit about you with eugenics. They don't give a shit about you with the Great Society. They certainly didn't give a shit about you with the Klan and slavery. What makes you think that Democrats care about you? And if you can just answer me this, please tell me what Democrat rule has done for you to better your life. Just name one thing. Name one thing, because COVID, you were not fans of Democrats because they locked you down. You didn't trust them with the vaccine. If you don't trust them and you don't like them for locking you down and you don't believe what they say, then why the fuck do you vote for them?
Right.
Because it's programmed to do so.
There's a really old psychological experiment, and this has been told, and I'm not comparing, not N-O-T, comparing black people to animals or insects or anything like that. But there is this old tale that says that if you put, I think it's fleas in a mason jar and you put the cap on, that they will continue to jump and hit the lid as hard as they can because they're looking for a way out. But if you leave that lid on long enough, eventually they will stop jumping. And eventually you can take the lid off and they will never leave. And that's the same kind of psychology that is baked into the Democrat plan that is intended for not just black people, everyone. They want subservience. They want a broken spirit because that's the only way that they can retain in power.
Yeah. Some people said, I have black friends who don't want to be called African American. Listen, it's just for the sake of the conversation. I don't think Stephen Biko said it best. Does everyone know who Stephen Biko is? African leader, South Africa, tried to end apartheid, was jailed and died in prison. Yeah, Stephen Biko. Very intelligent man. As he was on trial in a South African court, the judge looks at him and says, "Why do you call yourself black? You're more brown than black." And Stephen Biko says, "It's very interesting. Why do you call yourself white? You're more pink than white."
Yeah.
And it was such a profound statement, but that is the type of defiance that's needed in this country. It's not gang violence. It's not telling a cop to go fuck himself. It's an educated black man who understands the Constitution, who knows how to ask questions in a way that puts that officer not on the defensive, but in a state of reflection for the rules that they're breaking. There is a level of respect that is needed in the hierarchy of the workplace. There is a hierarchy inside the family unit. And African Americans need to empower themselves through education and intellect and conversation, and not by the end of a gun or smoking weed. And the only thing I can say is that I believe that Democrats have turned African Americans not only against each other, but against themselves. And I don't think you're comparing animals or insects to African Americans. I think you're talking about the mentality of a broken spirit. It's very similar to what I just said.
Yes. Yes.
And when you bang your head against a wall so many times, eventually you're just going to give up and start banging your head. Count of Monte Cristo is a wonderful example. There's only so many days that Edward Dantes could count that he filled up his entire jail cell with scratch marks of fives. Four single numerals with one down the middle at a diagonal to represent five, that he just gave up counting. Does anyone remember what he was carving into the rock?
Wasn't he carving in a Bible verse?
He was.
I just don't remember which one.
Do you remember what it was?
No.
Yeah, I don't either.
No.
It was.
I can look it up.
It was something like cometh. No, it was like faith. Have faith and retribution you will find, or something to that effect. Olivia will tell us real quick.
While she's looking that up, I will say that a personal American, not black, American hero of mine is Frederick Douglass. This was a guy who was a slave, found his way to freedom, studied, became an educated man, eventually became a lawyer, and by all measures of American success is He won the trophy. He won the lottery, right? And not enough people study him. Not enough people know about him. But whenever I hear someone make the argument, "Oh, I can't do it. It can't be done." Here is a guy who became that epitome of American success,
Yes.
and came from slavery. So don't tell me that it can't be done. It can be done. You just have to find your own way.
God will give me revenge. God
will give me justice.
God will give me justice. That's right.
I do remember that.
So it's been a while since the book and the movie. So night goes to you, Edmund.
Kings to you.
Kings to you, Edmund. Oh, I'm such a flamboyant homo.
Black and white, or are you talking about who the hell was in that? It was
Jim
Guy Pearce?
Caviezel or something.
Caviezel.
Guy Pearce and
Guy
Jim.
Pearce.
Guy
Yeah,
Pearce and Caviezel. Yeah. It was. Well, the only reason I love that movie is because it was the last Richard Harris movie, and Richard Harris is one of my heroes. So I think he is. He plays such a great, just
Richard Harris,
father figure, and just scholar and old man, an old soldier. So anyway,
just looks wise, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, he was Dumbledore, for God's sakes. That's all you need to know. Here is another one. It's just okay. Steve Jobs, and I've recommended this book to people. And I've also recommended another book that Leroy's still trying to finish, by Walter Isaacson, which is the Steve Jobs story. And I don't like Isaacson. He trounced Trump. But the autobiography is fantastic on Jobs. And if you haven't read it, read it. And in that book, Isaacson talks about the reality distortion field of Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs, a lot of people talked about his reality distortion field. And essentially, if Steve Jobs said it was true, it was. So, for example, people would come up and say, we can't fit 1,000 songs into a tiny SD drive. It's impossible. And Steve Jobs says, bullshit. It is possible. Do it. And people are like, it's not possible. We don't have the lithium technology, the rechargeable technology. We don't know how to go ahead and we don't have solid state drives. We don't know how to do it where it won't skip. We don't do it how to make it anti-shock. We don't even know how we're going to power the fucking display at that size. We can't even do it with phones. Phones aren't even running 8-bit quality resolution in LCDs. Yes, you can do it. Do it. It's possible. Make it happen. And Steve Jobs would just distort reality, and the people around him would get sucked into his reality distortion field. And that is how Steve Jobs achieved greatness, by leveraging others to be great, by having them believe things that were impossible. That is the impact that Steve Jobs had to revolutionize the industry. That was his gift. This lady is not Steve Jobs. And her reality distortion field is a non-reality delusion field. And I want you to listen to this bullshit, because I can tie nothing to this that is based in reality.
I also was disturbed and felt as if the president had been overprepared and they had been running him ragged. And sometimes you have to tell your team, no, stop. I could tell that the president was constantly reaching for answers. He knows the answers to all these questions. So I was pretty shocked by both sides, more so the moderation as well as the president. I expected him to do better.
Should President Biden debate again?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't want the same debate prep team. I also was disturbed.
Biden was over-prepared for the debate, Liv. He was so prepared that he came full circle. It's kind of like being so fat that somehow you become thin. It's the adage that if you do something long enough that you'll come full circle. That is relatively true from an anecdotal standpoint or from a hypothetical standpoint. But it doesn't work with everything. For example, if you slingshot around the moon, eventually you'll come back to Earth. That's not necessarily true. And it might work in Bugs Bunny, but that doesn't necessarily, because if you are off by a few feet, not only are you going to skip off Earth's atmosphere, you're going to be forever floating in space. So it's not always true. For example, you're so fat that eventually you'll become skinny. Yeah, that's not accurate. Or you're so rich, eventually you'll become poor. Well, that's true. That can take place. I mean, you could be rich overnight, and then, but it doesn't work when you say Joe Biden was so prepared and so full of knowledge and a robust encyclopedia of information that he was unable to answer the most simplest of questions. That doesn't happen. When you're over prepared, you usually answer it incorrectly by overstating your point with information that has nothing to do with the question. He didn't do that. He simply just nonsensically gobbledygook. Do you think he was overprepared, Liv?
No, I think.
And felt as if
I don't think he was overprepared. I don't think there is anything in the world that could have prepared him for the debate. There's maybe taken off 20 years in age that could have worked, but in his current age and state of mind, there's nothing that could have prepared him for that debate, no matter what. He is having such a hard time on your day-to-day everything. He doesn't know where he is half the time. I mean, just the confused looking at his watch and the looking around, and he doesn't know what he's doing.
Should he have another debate? Is there an opportunity for him to redeem himself by not flying for at least a month?
Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you, Joseph. And somehow find a way to redeem himself.
No, I don't think he'll redeem himself, but maybe they'll use it as an excuse to keep him in a basement for 2 months and go, he needs his rest before the debate so he can rest up. He was thanks, Thomas.
Thank you, Thomas.
Was too run ragged from going to France and jet lagged, and he needs 2 months to recover from that. So maybe he'll hide in his basement for 2 months before the next debate, and they'll use that excuse of he needs to rest. But
thank you, everybody, for donating.
Really appreciate all your help, guys.
Leroy, should he debate?
So I guess that depends on what the goal is. In my humble opinion, he absolutely should debate with the exact same team prep, with the exact same focus questions,
right,
and with the exact same scenario.
Yeah, you did great. You did great, Joe.
Look, debating is about optics. Rarely is anybody going to have enough fact checkers on staff right then and there for anybody to get it right. And at the end of the day, he may have been overprepared, right? They may have been trying to cram too many facts into his head, but not enough drugs, not enough of the go-go juice or the Red Bulls in order to get him to stand toe-to-toe with someone like Trump, who can suck all the oxygen out of a room. You can give somebody all of the cue cards in the world, but if they are not cognitively, it's not going to work. And the fact of the matter is, he just lacks enough life left in him. And I hate to say it that way. He just lacks enough of that, intellectual spice to go after someone like Trump and make it come across, again, this is about optics, and make it come across like, yes, I'm dominating in this debate. He lacks that ability. So I say, yeah, he should debate again.
Here's why the answer is no. Is because the facts don't change by the next debate. He doesn't have anything to go on.
Right.
And you're not going to solve inflation in the next couple of weeks. You're not going to solve horrible policy nothing's going to get better. So to have him go back on stage is foolish and idiotic. Now, Trump is like, let's rock and roll. Let's make it happen. But Biden shouldn't want any of that. And here's why. I just want to show you this quick video, something we did today. It's only 6 minutes. Watch this. It's a good laugh.
We gotta. It's just, but you gotta. I mean, we gotta reassure. Look, my message to everybody I talk to.
He has no idea. Folks, it doesn't get better with age. That's the thing. It's not a fine wine. It's not a cheese. It's not reruns of MASH, folks. Jill Biden 2 years ago with Joseph Biden. I don't know if you've heard, but the most recent news is these are examples of cue cards that they now have with photographs. It used to be just red writing. Then it was bold writing. Then it was specific, 4 or 5 words, monosyllabic directions. Now it's down to 2 or 3 words with photographs. It's not getting any better. We're going to help Joe Biden tonight to ensure that in the future he has all the cards he needs to be successful. We'll be right back. For Joe Biden, it's good to have everybody here. Let's start off with the cue cards for Joe Biden. 1, this is a woman. And these are off the cuff, folks. I couldn't write anything for it because every time I started to, it just got too long and dramatic. So we're going to try to keep this somewhat brief. But everyone knows I'm going to drop that fan in the background. It can pick it up when I'm talking. So now I know it's not my strong suit. Joe, these cards are designed to help you throughout the day. This is indeed a woman. It doesn't matter if the baritone voice or the hairy chin or 5 o'clock shadow, Adam's apple, or that they pee in a urinal right next to you. This is a woman. No matter what you say or think, just remember at all times. And no, this is not Voodoo Mama. This is Kamala Harris or Kamala, depending upon what you can retain. This is your vice president. This was your DEI hire pick, and it wound up being the best thing you could do for your presidency because even though you're so terribly horrific at your job, nobody wants Kamala, and this just epitomizes why DEI is complete trash. The sniffing of children and other people will not be tolerated. Joe, you can't sniff people anymore. In this day and age, you've got to keep your hands to yourself and make sure that you don't put your nose in places it doesn't belong. Speaking of nose, this isn't cocaine. It's just a white powdery substance. I'm sure it's anthrax. Never mind, there's a straw made of glass or razor blades attached or somebody stepping on the rock. It's most assuredly not hunters in the White House. I want to make sure we understand that. Cocaine's found all the time in the White House. We have no idea where it came from. It just suddenly appeared. Man ponds. That's not what a depends is. Just make sure when you use the word depends, you're not looking down or pointing to your rear, and they most assuredly are not called man ponds, Joe. This is not a Chinese spy balloon. It's nothing to fear. It can traverse the United States, taking photographs at will, but it's also not a Goodyear blimp. Make sure you include that, and you certainly don't want to shoot it down when you have thousands of miles of notice in the Pacific. Make sure it goes across the United States, and then you want to shoot it in the Atlantic so China gets what they need. Remember, not a Goodyear blimp. Inflation, transitory. That's it, period. Move on. Always, this man is clean, brown, and intelligent. Ensure that you convey this message to America because they always like to hear how black people are not dirty, black, and stupid. Very important. Top secret documents? No, they are not stored in the garage. Ashley Biden's diary is okay, I guess, but top secret documents do not go next to your Corvette. It's not a skiff, Joe. You can't make any excuses for it. Corn Pops are bad cereal. Pretty simple. Just going to try to hold it together the entire time. These are Republicans, and you want to make sure that you don't eulogize them, especially 4 of them during the civil rights movement when they were all in the Ku Klux Klan, and then say there were some very fine people. Isn't it interesting? Supposedly Donald Trump was, they're very fine people on both sides, but somehow Byrd and Wallace and Thurman are all very fine people. Interesting. This is Hitler. Not a life in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter whether it's 9 months, 7 months. Remember, the one thing in the debate you did say is up to the third trimester, which is an interesting thing. Nobody is talking about that. You blatantly, they were saying, when is it acceptable? And you're like, third trimester. And nobody called you on that. You got called on everything else. I mean, I know that there was just a plethora of one-liners that they could grab onto, but that one was interesting for sure. You and kids equal bad. Showers are not for your children, especially when you're in them. They can take showers, just not with you in there taking showers with them. If you're confused, see Ashley's diary, as we have mentioned it earlier. Didn't die in Iraq. This is your other son. This isn't Bo, and Bo didn't die in Iraq either. But if you get confused, this is the guy that has the crack. I mean, white powdery substance that isn't cocaine in the White House. Russian disinformation. That's all it is. That laptop isn't real. Those photographs aren't real. It's all a deep fake by Russia, even though there are court cases depending upon this laptop, but that doesn't matter. It's all fake. Not black. These people are most assuredly not black, because remember, all African Americans that don't vote for you are not black. Don't abandon American hostages on the way to the podium. Make sure you don't do that. Whether it be in Israel or it's in Afghanistan, Americans are important. And the old adage that we don't leave anyone behind is the way it works. That doesn't really reflect on your relationship with China. It has to do with Americans. Make sure you do that. And last but not least, Joe, 2025 is right around the corner. It's all going to be okay. That is, if Jill lets you actually retire and doesn't make you run for a third term. Thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me Show. Oh man, I love it when we get people who are just, there's so much Trump derangement syndrome that they'll say something that is so stupid, and they'll know it's stupid, but they have to say it anyway. Keith Oberly, he's probably Keith Olbermann, because he's got some troll accounts. The Coke in the White House was Don Jr.'s. Okay. Yeah. Really?
When was he in the White House?
Yeah.
Recently?
It sat there for how many years? Yeah. It's Don Jr.
3
so of course
years,
it is.
roughly.
Yeah. Congratulations, man. You've now had 0 days of mentioning Trump for no reason. And you can start tomorrow again and start a new streak that probably will last 24 hours. The guy, the thing that baffles me, and Olivia and I were talking about this at dinner, is even if they put Kamala in there, which that's their only option. Just so you understand, that's the only option. And there's 420 million reasons why Kamala is the only option. Can you imagine Venn diagrams answering this question? Your former boss, Joe Biden, who has left and abandoned the presidency, and you are running in his stead. Can you explain why you and the rest of the media and the Democratic Party lied to the American people for 3.5 years and covered up Joe Biden's obvious ailments and told us that he was fine? How can we trust you? How in the fuck can Venn diagrams answer that question?
Venn diagrams.
How can she? I mean, is there an answer for her to be able to answer that not only articulately, but in a way that could convince anybody that she is not a liar?
No.
I love Venn diagrams. I really do. I love Venn diagrams. It's just something about those 3 circles and the analysis about where there is the intersection, right?
So
yeah, I see people, you agree with me, right?
Keith Oberly has a witty comeback. He has a Shelby Cobra avatar, something he cannot afford, never will own. He says, prove it wasn't. Well, see, that's a logical fallacy. And there are many fallacies, Keith. But this fallacy in particular is grandiose claims are not for Amy or myself to disprove. It's for you to prove. Because what you're saying goes against what has been reported and what is genuinely known. So if you're going to make a grandiose claim, I can say your mother's a whore. But it's up my burden of proof to prove it. I could also say you're a virgin. And just because I say it doesn't make it so. So by you saying Don Jr., it's his cocaine, it means nothing. Because you're not a credible witness. You have nothing to prove that. And all you're doing is making a logical fallacy. So, congratulations. Nobody here is buying it. And as a troll goes, you're pretty bad. You're not doing a very good job. But I am going to entertain you, and I am going to talk to you because you deserve it. Because I love my trolls. And either you will embrace this and then hopefully watch the show and say, okay, you know what, there's some things that are redeeming, or this show sucks and I hate it. Either way, your mother's a whore. All right, so now let's go ahead and move on to something else. We're going to dive into an interesting video that I saw earlier today. Did anyone have any comments on Sleepy Joe and Kamala? Go ahead.
Actually, I had a comment about your video. I thought that your video was awesome. By the way, I laughed the whole way through it. And I was really waiting for the page to come up where instead of the cue cards, it's like literally, the lazy brown fox jumps over the fence kind of thing. And we actually have to give Joe a series of cue cards that are like in tune with like a 3-year-old. And I know that's what you did, but I actually wanted to see something like, the brown fox jumps over the fence just to see, if anybody would have.
Yeah. I decided to try to keep it a little bit highbrow because we only have 124 days left. So I got to keep swinging for the fences here. But it's a good point. I think honestly, that's what those first cue cards were.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the prosecutorial statement is that's what they're 3 words with pictures. They have resorted back to a first grade reading level for Joe Biden. He's like Benjamin Button, except he's getting older, but his intellect is reversing are going in reverse. Here is Jake Tapper trying to reassure America
in reality
about Joe Biden. Now, Jake Tapper, if you weren't paying attention, he's the one that facilitated the debate along with some other chick who's irrelevant, kind of like Keith is. Here's Tapper. Just tell me what you think. How does this make you feel? Let me know.
Just his face?
No.
In reality, 72% of voters say that they believe President Biden is too old. That's according to CNN's most recent polling. Voters have been saying this for quite a long time. The reality is that the Democratic elites are mostly late to acknowledge these age and ability issues compared to the rest of the public. The elites have been forced to reckon with it after the debate just 11 days ago.
Look at my career. I've not had many of those nights. It was a terrible night, and I really regret it happened. But the fact of the matter is, how can you assure you're going to be on faith that can intervene on your way to go to, work tomorrow? Age wasn't, the idea I'm too old.
The fact of the matter is, how can you assure you're going to be out?
That is supposed to secure America. That's supposed to make us feel better?
On your way to go, work tomorrow. Age wasn't, the idea that I'm too old. Keep in mind, that soundbite is supposed to be reassuring to those Democratic supporters who have gone wobbly. Many Democratic officials
CNN is helping Trump.
Are worried that President
I told you,
Biden,
Jake. I told you guys Jake Tapper was going to lay into Biden. I don't know why you guys thought he wouldn't. He was adamantly against PPP loans. He was adamantly against the vaccine. He was adamantly against the lockdowns. He went after Pelosi. He went after Schumer. He went after Fauci. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Tapper is a dick. There's no doubt. And he's one-sided. But he has had moments where he sees injustice or sees mistakes happening. He calls it out. And I told you he was going to run a fair debate. And everyone's like, oh, no, it's CNN. Well, guess what? And then when I did it, he's like, they're just trying to help their ratings. You guys... Seriously, it is completely acceptable to say the following words. I was wrong. It's okay. You can do it. You can do it. There's nothing wrong with saying I was wrong. Please start doing it. It's like people right now who are all of a sudden, I put up the thing that says Joe Biden said, the only person who's going to remove me from office if God comes down and talks to me. And I said, God, please, now would be a good time, and people are like, no, now we don't want it because we don't want Kamala. Joe Biden needs to stay in. I said, Do you guys understand, first of all, it's humor, and second, I'm one of the only people who've said for 3.5 years that Joe Biden will be the nominee. He will not drop out. He will be the nominee for the DNC, for an incumbent president. And all of you were like, no, it's going to be Michelle Obama. It's going to be Newsom. It's going to be freaking Kamala Harris. I don't understand why you guys get to change your fucking opinions so much without taking ownership for what you said. But I would appreciate if we would all start doing it. That would mean a lot to me. Because, like, you think I don't remember. I remember every one of you what you say. Ask my wife. Olivia?
Yeah, he does.
I remember everything you say. And I'm sitting here going, I remember shit that Troy said when we first started the podcast in regards to the stolen election and what days that the tribunals were coming and Donald Trump was going to take over. And I remember all of it. And I keep notes in my head. So you don't get to sit here and be like, oh, Matt, of course we don't want Biden. I'm like, no shit, it's a joke. Joe Biden left himself open. So I'm going to say, okay, God, come on down and make a switch. But of course we don't want anyone other than Joe Biden. But what you need to understand is that even though 75% of America think he's too old, even though that 70% of America doesn't like him, he still won in 2020. No matter who's stolen, it doesn't matter. People showed up. If you think 81 million votes, every one of them was fake, you have problems. I think you're forgetting how much they dislike Trump. And that is important. People don't go out and vote for who they dislike. So his base is going to have to show up, and Joe Biden has not won over his base. Right now, this is Donald Trump's election to lose because his base is going to show up because they love him. Joe Biden's base is turning on him. And the only way to shore it up is for him to go out there and debate Trump and destroy him. And if he doesn't do that, from now on, he's going to be known as Grandpa Fudpucker. Okay? All right. Fair enough. Jake Tapper, Leroy, what do you think of Grandpa Stumpy's ability to put the shit back in the horse? And Olivia, you too. I'd like to get yours. What do you think?
Olivia, why don't you go first? You've been patient all night.
That phone call was, it did not reassure me at all. He kind of bumbled and stumbled, and I have absolutely no idea what he said right there. So if he thinks that that's going to help the American people think that he's stable enough, then no, I think he's mistaken. And he's just not all there.
Yeah. Well, I think we know that. Thomas Griffith says, do you think they will keep Biden in to lose on purpose, to have the ability to clean their own house? I don't think any incumbent presidency expects to lose. It's happened 3 times in the last 110 years. Donald Trump was one of them. And Joe Biden very much could be the next. But that's like saying the Florida Panthers lost in Game 4 to Edmonton so they could win it at home. No, they didn't. No. Sports teams don't do that. They got a bonus for pushing the season to Game 5. No, that's not the way it works. People are like, oh, it's rigged. Every sports team wants to end the series because they don't want to play another game. These guys, by the time they win the Stanley Cup, have played 116 fucking games. They have no desire to play 117. So please understand that Democrats don't want to lose the White House in order to clean house. The Democrats want to win the White House. The Democrats are starting to realize that they can't win the White House. Go ahead, Leroy.
I did not feel the warm and fuzzy from that interview from Joe Biden. I got the exact opposite effect, which was one of terror. Terror in the realization that this, the way he speaks, the buffoonery, right, as he talks and tries to reassure everyone that it's all under control. I am terrified at the notion that the red button is tied around his neck and it's right next to his life alert, and someday he's going to get the two confused, right? I am terrified at that notion. Beyond that, I would like to applaud, to Matt's point, I would applaud Jake Tapper for not throwing him the easy over the plate ball to hit. The fact that he threw some challenges at him and critiqued him hardcore, to CNN's base, You know, everyone, my sister-in-law always calls it the Clinton News Network, you know, and there's an element of truth to that. I mean, I get it's a joke, but to play that to Biden's base, who is the majority of that audience, I think that's a real help for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I do.
We have 7 minutes to play this and then 10 minutes final to get to the GOP changing their stance on abortion. If only somebody would have called that 9 months ago and got a ration of shit from all of his viewers. Just another example of that I'm right. And nana boo-boo, stick your head in doo-doo. Leroy's going to cover it for us. But before that, we get to hear Jean-Claude Pierre Van Damme get ripped apart by the press. And of course, you know what they're saying? They never talked to Jen Psaki this way. They never treated a white woman this way. This has nothing to do with race.
Where does the white women at?
The bitch can't answer a fucking question. Okay? Seriously. And here you go. This is the greatest day I've ever seen. I am so happy that the White House press corps is at least doing what they are designed and hired to do. The fourth estate. This is the way it used to be, folks. Stephanopoulos used to deal with this. Okay? This is not new. Dana Perino dealt with this type of stuff. McInerney dealt with this. Huckabee Sanders dealt with this. Sean Spicer, Ari Fleischer dealt with this. This is nothing new. Watch this. This is great. If you haven't seen it.
That he gets every year that we provide to all of
Okay,
them.
that's a very basic, direct question.
Wait. Hold on. Wait.
And this is why it's so contentious. Eight times in 1 year, Biden met with a Parkinson's disease specialist. 8 times. And the news, they're pissed.
Wait a second.
Eight times, or at least once, in regards to the president specifically.
Hold on a second.
That's what you should be able to answer by this point.
Wait, no.
Reporting about it.
No, wait a minute. Ed, please. A little respect here, please. So every year, around the president's physical examination, he sees a neurologist. That's 3 times, right? So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency. That's what I'm saying. I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. That is what I'm sharing with you, right? So every time he has a physical, he has had to see a neurologist. So that is answering that question.
No, it's not.
No, it is. It is. You're asking me. I also said to you, Ed, I also said to you, for security reasons, we cannot share names. We cannot share names. We have to.
Others he would have met with.
We cannot.
You can share names in regards to if someone came here in regards to the president.
We cannot share names of specialists broadly, from a dermatologist to a neurologist. We cannot share names. There are security reasons. We have to protect. I understand that. I hear you.
There they go.
I hear you. I cannot from here confirm any of that because we have to keep their privacy. I think they would appreciate that too. We have to give them.
Question of the doctor.
We have to keep their privacy.
It is public information.
I hear you. Guys, hold on a second. There's no reason to go back and forth with me in this aggressive way.
Miffed around here about how information's been shared with the press corps around here.
What are you missed about? What are you missed about?
Everything he just asked about.
And then every time I come back and I answer the question that you guys asked.
Correctly, you didn't have to come back and clean up.
I never answered the question incorrectly. That is not true. I was asked about a medical exam. I was asked about a physical. That was in the line of question that I answered.
They're so racist. I mean, seriously, don't they know they're talking to a black lesbian? I mean, show some fucking respect, why don't you? What? Oh, were you doing the O formation?
It's the
Z formation, dude. Get it right. What's this O shit? I thought you were like her O face.
No, not that one. I know what that one looks like.
Listen, good. We got 2 minutes, but good. Olivia, your thoughts on Claude Jean Dampierre basically getting shellacked on national TV?
It's about damn time.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean, they're like, you're a liar. You know, you're fucking lying to us. You can't tell the doctor. So let me get this straight. The Surgeon General is public knowledge. Everybody knows the Surgeon General's name. But we can't talk about some sort of low-level urologist or dermatologist who comes in when it's on the open public records, Freedom of Information Act. You can request the records of the visitor logs to the White House anytime you want and get every one of their names. Somehow this is top secret information. So let me get this straight. The president of the United States, who had top secret documents in his fucking garage and 6 times said he handed them all over and had to go ahead and bring more in, he's more worried about a urologist's name or a neurologist's name versus classified information of this country. Completely makes sense. At least his operational security awareness is on full tilt. Leroy?
We have 119 days until the election. And it has been far too long that the press has treated Democrats with these kind of kid gloves and hey, let's pull back on the aggression, while they've gone on full force on anyone with an R after their name, as if to say, you people are the enemy, right? When in reality, that whole thing has been that optics that we talk about here. So for 119 days before the election, for the press to go after her like that, I have an erection.
Wow, that's at your age. That's impressive. That's
it's a good one too.
It's
Something. Don't.
So yeah, I don't want to picture Leroy's penis. People are saying Peter Ducey is like, he's just sitting there watching this unfold because it's about time. It's about time. They have anyone who sits. Okay, here. Let me give you a quick example. Joe Biden said that Donald Trump lied 42 times. That's what he said. But CNN or MSNBC said he lied 248 times. Which one is it? And if you've missed 200 some odd lies, then either one of you never deserves to be in your role again, that being President Biden, or that news station. Take your pick. See, what they feel Donald Trump is lying about this is what they'll say is lie. Donald Trump says, Joe Biden says, I have a 6 handicap. And Donald Trump's like, yeah, sure you do. Donald Trump lied. Donald Trump lied and said that Joe Biden didn't have a 6 handicap. That's not a lie.
No.
When he sits here and says, I had record unemployment, it's not a lie. That's not a lie. He did have record unemployment. And every single demographic, he had record unemployment. And then COVID happened. But it's still, it was the best economy in 75 years, folks. And anyone who says it wasn't is just a fucking liar. It's not a lie. So then what they do is they go and look at the economy, energy, inflation, overall jobs report. They look at open jobs. They look at average salary. They look at wage increase. And then they get him for 16 lies. Lie. And they go, okay, he lied 16 times. It's just like indictments. They indict him for the same fucking 3 things 96 times. So whenever they sit here, it's like the COVID death ticker, okay? Oh, well, I was hit by a bus. Well, was that bus named COVID? I died in a plane crash. Sounds like COVID got him. So this is what they do. Now, Donald Trump, is he the most honest and truthful person on the planet? No. Does he exaggerate? Yes. Does he tell whoppers? Yes. But did he lie 250 times in that debate? Absolutely not. And if you're going to count Donald Trump's lies, why aren't you counting Joe Biden's lies? Because you don't even know what the fuck Joe Biden said to count the lies that he had. And I keep telling myself, Matt, you'll do so well. CPAC will invite you. You'll get an invite to the White House by Trump. If you just stop cussing, your show will go huge. You know, I can't fucking do it. I've tried. I just can't. I can't be my authentic self. So either conservatives are going to have to embrace it and change their values a little bit, or I am forever going to be mediocre. And that's just the way it is. Leroy, Republicans have changed their values. Good segue. What the hell are Republicans doing and what's going on? Tell us. You got 7 minutes.
All right. Well, it won't take 7 minutes, but there was a news story that popped up earlier today where the Republican Party is abandoning its stance on abortion as part of its party platform.
Good.
And yes, and Matt has been saying this since like day one, where we've said that abortion. Now you can have your own values in terms of abortion. I am anti. I believe that when the Declaration of Independence states that we hold these truths to be self-evident, right? The first right that's listed in there, the first unalienable right is life. And there's a reason for that. But again, that's a personal anecdote for me. As a party stance, it is a losing debate. And again, Matt has covered this in the past. If you take a hard stance as if to say, oh, it should be, there should be a nationwide abortion ban, guess what? That's too much of an extreme thing. That's not a winning platform. Conversely, the opposite side of that coin, from Joe's last debate where he's like, oh no, I believe in abortion in the 3rd trimester, right up to the point where he's about to enter through the, no, that's also a losing debate. And so what I did here, I'm just going to show this to you real quick.
Are you going to draw us a Venn diagram?
No, not that sexy.
Okay.
But we have okay, so that is the bell curve,
oh, dude,
right?
Green screen is making that see right.
I know.
You're seeing right through it. That is so cool.
I know. It is cool.
Okay.
But to the left are the Democrats, to the right are the Republicans. And again, if we take that argument too far to the right and say, oh no, we're going to, there should be a nationwide abortion ban. No, that's a losing argument. What we need to do is appeal to that part of the base where the most voters are, as if to say, hey, look, we accept that there are going to be abortions in the United States. I can accept that in cases of rape, incest. I get it. I understand that argument. I'm not a heartless, prick. I understand that. And so I think this is a great move. I think that for the next 119 days, that messaging could not go far enough, because this has been the main argument from the Democrat Party. This has been the main headline on every social media post that the Democrats own. And the people that push this, like that's their number one go-to. If the Republicans get in, there's going to be a nationwide abortion ban. By abandoning that on the party platform, that will win back a lot of independent voters. That's my coverage on it. I thought it was an amazing story. I couldn't have been more happy to read that.
It just takes the argument away from Democrats that
That's what I was going to say.
Go ahead. No, Liv, go ahead.
No, that's all I was going to say.
Say it.
It just takes that's the number one thing they're pushing on right now against Republicans is the whole abortion thing. It takes it completely off the table with them, and now they can't complain about it anymore.
This cat is dead. I could drop her. She's out. She's out. She's out. I am the cat whisperer. So the whole thing is, I said this, remember, all I asked was a question. I posed a question. Should Republicans push forward the right to life bill right now and at least have the Democrats vote on it no, so they take away the debate of abortion? And that's what they just did. What they're saying is we're taking it out of our platform. And although there are plenty of conservatives who are flipping out right now, I'm sorry, 71% of the country agrees on this. Yep. And I am not opposed to codifying an abortion law and putting very strict guidelines around it, putting both parties in a room for a year. I don't care how long it fucking takes, and have the states agree and make an amendment. We need to decide this. Yep. We have to. For the sake of the human life that's being wasted. And it's not because I believe that more access to abortion should be legal. It's to limit the access of the unfettered access they have right now to kill millions.
Yeah.
And it needs to be regulated. This is something that needs regulation because it is a God-given right, the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we must come together from a theological standpoint and a science standpoint and identify when life begins. As a country, we must. And if we don't, then more babies are going to be needlessly killed as an afterthought.
Yeah.
And when you put limits on abortion, you put more responsibility in the man and woman's hand who are about to have sex. And I'm telling you, abortion has become too easy. Because when I was younger, I wore a condom. She had birth control because we didn't want to get pregnant. We didn't want AIDS and didn't want diseases, right? Now, you can just get rid of that baby. And so the consequence is gone. It's taking God out of people's lives. As now they're like, well, I can do anything I want in this mortal coil because it doesn't matter anymore. Well, the same is true when it comes to having copious amounts of sex without possible repercussions. I think it's a good thing for the Republican Party. That's all.
I absolutely agree with that. I think so. And for it to be 119 days out, everyone who's watching this, that we have 133 on Facebook that I see, God knows how many on Wimkin and all the other platforms. Go ahead, dig up that headline and share it to your social media. That is huge, and that will affect the voting outcome. It will.
And people are flipping out. They're like, we're Christians. Now you have a choice. You didn't vote Democrat because it was against Christian ethics. Now Republicans are against Christian ethics. No, it's not what it's saying. Listen, the Republican Party is antithetical to change, just like Democrats are antithetical to saying no. Republicans say no. For every yes, they say 1,000 no's. This isn't one of them. We took Roe v. Wade and brought it back to the states, and now the states need to codify it. They either need to outlaw abortion outright, which is never going to happen, or accept it up to birth, which is never going to happen. Now they need to find a happy medium. They have their starting points. I believe that 15 weeks, life of mother, medical emergency, rape or incest, that's the platform. Anything outside of that has to be a doctor's approval or has to be taken out of state or something else for approval. But it is not to be used for birth control up until 15 weeks. And even if it is, folks, you have to ask yourself the question. We've got to do something. We've got to do something because homelessness is running rampant in the United States. Fatherless homes is running rampant in the United States. We have got to get back to having some sort of semblance of control that having a child is not having a fucking cat or a dog or a goldfish. It is a massive responsibility. And if you are not ready to have it, I don't want you having kids. Period. 1 minute to Leroy, then we're going to wrap it up. We are 2 minutes past the hour. Wimkin, Spreeling TV, still on. Thank you so much. Folks, if you have not, you got to do me a favor before you go. Don't go. Here's my minute. Wimkin.
You go.
Talked to Jason today, CEO of Wimkin. He's just a great guy. Folks, if you have not registered with Wimkin, go do it. Free speech, 100%. I'm finding that I am probably going to start streaming to Wimkin exclusively here soon. I'm getting to that point. It's a waste of time for me to be on some channels because they're just simply, they don't respect us. And Twitter, Rumble, Wimkin do an amazing job. Facebook, we're going to have to get people to show up more consistently because Facebook is a huge draw. They keep throttling our page, and I'm done with it. If you have not had a chance to go to Wimkin, it is a free speech social media platform. Conservative voices, but there's also liberals there. And they are some of the nicest people. If you have not had a chance to go to Wimkin, please do. Here's my 1 minute, the Wimkin commercial. It's funnier than hell. Do not leave. It's funny. And then Leroy gets his minute, then Olivia. Here it is.
Are you tired of being constantly banned off of every social media platform for saying facts only to be proven right 6 months later after you already had to create a new account? Tired of Fuckerberg robot AI looking bitch constantly putting you in Facebook jail? Or maybe a geriatric old bastard who shits his pants in front of the Pope became the resident-in-chief because his crack addict, traitorous son had complete media silence about traitorous actions and backdoor deals with the big guy. And those bastards ban you for sharing the story. If you said yes to 2 of the 3 above, you don't need to circle back like a failed White House spokesperson who has 2 alcoholic drinks for a name. Up in Wimkin, we think it's fair not to sell your data to China, even though their president is super inclusive and named Xi. We kind of have a problem with the whole harvesting organs, slave labor, and communism. We also don't compromise you or get your kids to do stupid and dangerous trends. So you don't have to find out secondhand your kid Johnny is an idiot. Look no further than Wimkin. Made and housed in the USA, Wimkin offers all the features of Facebook and more, with complete data privacy and safe for your whole family. Download us on your app store today and join the community of users who value privacy and safety. Wimkin.
World Must Know Now is what Wimkin stands for, created for a free speech platform. Now, when you go over there, understand big tech is not a fan of Wimkin. They're a free speech platform, and like others, like Gab and all the others, have been shut down. Wimkin also suffered that. They said that they were participating in J6 communication, which was bullshit. There were people who were talking. Jason did everything he could to go ahead and limit the amount of any activity like that. The reason why they hate him is because the J6 Commission demanded all user records from Wimkin, and he refused. He would not give them the information. He protected people's privacy, and they hate him for it. So go over to Wimkin, take a look. If you have a Comcast, Google, Yahoo email, just sign up, remember your username, remember your password, and give it about 24 hours. Jason approves every account. Every account he approves and hits the button on. After 24 hours, just put your username and password. It will go through. If it doesn't, reach out to us and we'll take care of you. Leroy, your final minute. Go for it.
We've covered a lot on this show. We've covered everything from President Biden's cue cards to how the media is turning on the presidency and to Karine Jean-Pierre. So this has been a really interesting turn of events in the last couple of days. I would urge everyone to not take the threats of World War III too seriously, but definitely keep your eyeball on what's happening internationally, i.e. France, like we covered in the first part of the show. Something else, and I think I can say this with some level of confidence. Everyone who's on the show, every one of the hosts that you see here, we all struggle with God. We all struggle with belief. There's a Jordan Peterson book where he actually wrote that. I think the name of the book is We Who Struggle with God. But it is within that, within at least pondering, well, what if, right? There's Pascal's wager. Look that one up. If you at least put enough thought into it to make those arguments for yourself, try to find the moral ground there. Because the opposite side of that, I want to read a quote from a movie that I saw just the other night. I didn't realize it was out there. It was a movie called Don't Breathe. And in that, there's this character who is about to forego a rape. And while he was trying to defend this, he makes the following statement. There is nothing a man cannot do once he accepts the fact that there is no God. And I thought about that. The chaos that comes after that statement is literally everything that is happening in the world today, mostly from the left. That is why they want to destroy religion so much, and why they want the separation of religion and state. And I'm not saying that that's not a good thing. There should be some boundaries there, but they want to ditch it all together. They don't want you to believe in God. I just wanted to throw that out there. That was my final minute. Thank you for watching tonight. And moving on.
Outstanding, man. Good stuff. Livia, final thoughts? All about it, honey. Go ahead.
Just Thanks everyone for watching. Thank you for the donations. We really appreciate all of the donations. Every cent, whether you donate $1 or $100 or $1,000, we love you all the same. And it really helps out a lot.
How can they donate? Can you give them the...
They can go to linktapgo.com/thedumbshow.
And you can go ahead and pick whatever you want to do, any denomination. We appreciate it. You can also stop by the Don't Unfriend Me Show store if you would not mind. You can go there at thedumbshow.com, pick yourself up a hat, a t-shirt, some coffee. We've got it all. And if you would not mind, you can also go to thedumbnews.com where we have daily news. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow we'll be back at 7 o'clock p.m. And we will see you then. Olivia, are you on with us?
Yes, I should be. I'm not here Wednesday, though.
Leroy, you are not. So we will see you on Friday. And we will see Olivia tomorrow and myself. We're going to try to get the Burn Pit podcast on here too. We had Damani Felder. The good news is Damani loved it. He had nothing but great things to say. He wants to come back. He just had glowing review about how kind everyone, how much fun he had, how Leroy was a complete coward for not showing up and a dick. No, but anyway,
No,
listen,
I loved that show, and I really, really, really want to be on a show where I can interact with him. He is an amazing guy.
He is. He's a cool dude, and it's fun. We're actually backing each other up on Twitter a lot. So when he says certain things, I've got his back, and it's been good. He's been sharing stuff. So I think he's going to be a friend of the show, huh?
I can't imagine what the show would be like with the spectrum of males here between you, between Damani and Izzo. I would love to see that interaction.
That show would be incredible.
I would not be on that show.
Yeah, because I think Izzo would piss Damani off.
Oh, I think so too.
Yeah, and well, Izzo pisses me off sometimes, but Damani's pissed me off. I've watched Damani sometimes, and I'm like, meh, I don't agree with him, but I still love him and respect him. And same thing with Izzo, because Izzo's opinions never interfere with our friendship, and so far Damani's been the same way. And that's really, we can disagree, folks. We love you. We appreciate you. Thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me Show. We'll see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Thanks for donating. It really does help. If you like the show tonight, at least give us a follow or a like, and if you can donate, that also helps too. Keeps the show on and keeps it free. Thanks for watching. Good night.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, Olivia, and Mike. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on the Spreely.tv network and all major social media channels at The DUM Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.
The little thing I ordered from